brazen abuse of power by a sitting president inflamed a combustible situation, putting our people, our officers, and even our National Guard at risk. That's when the downward spiral began. He doubled down on his dangerous National Guard deployment by fanning the flames even harder. And the president, he did it on purpose. As the news spread throughout LA, anxiety for family and friends ramped up. Protests started again. By night, several dozen lawbreakers became violent and destructive. They vandalized property. They tried to assault police officers. Many of you have seen the video clips of cars burning on cable news, and was concentrated in just a few square blocks downtown. But that's not what Donald Trump wanted. He again chose escalation. He chose more force. He chose theatrics over public safety. He federalized another 2,000 Guard members. He deployed more than 700 active U.S. Marines. These are the men and women trained for foreign combat, not domestic law enforcement. We honor their service. We honor their bravery. But we do not want our streets militarized by our own armed forces. Not in LA, not in California, not anywhere. Trump and his loyalists, they thrive on division because it allows them to take more power and exert even more control. And by the way, Trump, he's not opposed to lawlessness and violence as long as it serves him. What more evidence do we need than January 6th? Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us. This is about you. California may be first, but it clearly will not end here. Other states are next. Democracy is next. Democracy is under assault before our eyes. This moment we have feared has arrived.
As Governor Newsom spoke, protests spread across our country, from New York City to Denver to Milwaukee. At least 25 rallies took place in major cities. More protests are taking place today ahead of large crowds expected to come out on Saturday when Donald Trump is holding a military parade in Washington, D.C.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about some more bad news for the Democrats. What is happening right now in this country is like the worst nightmare of a Democrat, right? I'm very, very, very serious about this, and I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about, because Democrats are losing their minds right now over President Trump refusing to back down from the mass deportations, okay? He is now mobilizing ICE to go and to crack down on illegal immigration and to conduct the mass deportations across the country. And what happened out in LA, okay, is showing these Democrats that President Trump is not effing around, okay, that he is willing to use the military in order to conduct the mass deportations. Again, Democrats thought that it was all fun and games when they was out here talking about how we're going to mobilize against the mass deportations. We're going to Trump-proof our states, right? You remember super sanctuary cities, right? Is that what they called them? They called them super sanctuary cities, right? We're gonna reinforce our sanctuary city laws, right? To Trump-proof our states. Well, turned out that that didn't work, okay? And President Trump again has shown these Democrats that he's not playing around when it comes to enforcing federal law. Okay, it really is the fault of these Democrats who refuse to cooperate with the federal government. And that's what I think makes it so funny that these same people are basically trying to blame Trump and say, well, it's his fault that you have these rioters and these looters and these agents of chaos and these domestic terrorists committing these acts of violence, right? This is what they say. Again, they try to have their cake and eat it too. Out of one side of their mouth, they tell you that the violence is made up. There is no violence, right? It's not happening. But then when they acknowledge that violence is happening, they say, well, it's Trump's fault.
Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. He started this. There should be no violence. He should not continue to support violence. They should not be edged on and, provoked in any way. And that's what the President of the United States is doing to exert his power and to show that he's in charge and to show that he's going to get the numbers that he promised to get people deported. And
right, it's Trump's fault that the violence is happening because, you know, him deploying the National Guard to protect ICE, right, as they are enforcing federal law. Oh, well, that's triggering the domestic terrorists in our liberal cities. So therefore, it's his fault, not the fault of the domestic terrorists who decided to attack ICE in the first place. Again, Democrats are losing on this issue. I'm not sure exactly what they're thinking, right? But what I do know is that Gavin Newsom, who is pretending to be a moderate, he's been exposed as a far leftist, right? So he can't play this whole, oh, I'm a moderate thing once the Democrat primaries come around, because he's not a moderate, right? The Democrat Party as a whole is far left on this issue. They're aligned with the communists on this issue, okay? So with that being said, President Trump is not folding to the communists. He's doubling, tripling down because he is deploying ICE to these liberal sanctuary cities across the country. And now ICE, they are deploying tactical units to help protect them as they conduct the mass deportations. As you have these liberal cities freaking out, right? They're now breaking out in protest. There are mass arrests happening, which, by the way, again, why are they mass arrests if there's no violence, there's no chaos, right? If there's no domestic terrorism happening, why are there mass arrests? Okay, but again, you know, what we're seeing here is President Trump doubling and tripling down, and the liberal extremists getting triggered, getting very upset, and Democrats in a full-blown panic. Take a look.
Hi there and welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Ryan Nobles in Washington. As the White House warns of additional military deployments in American cities, with pockets of unrest persisting in Los Angeles, ICE preparing to deploy tactical units to major U.S. cities, and protests against the administration's immigration crackdown spreading across the country. At the White House today, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt doubled down on the president's harsh rhetoric.
The mob violence is being stomped out. The criminals responsible will be swiftly brought to justice. And the Trump administration's operations to arrest illegal aliens are continuing unabated. The position of the Democrat Party is that the federal government is not allowed to enforce our laws and to arrest and deport illegal alien criminals. They're attempting to use a violent mob as a weapon against their own constituents to prevent the enforcement of immigration law. This is deeply un-American and morally reprehensible.
Now, we should note there is no evidence that Democrats or any specific organization are behind the protests in Los Angeles or elsewhere. And as we've been noting, the pockets of unrest have so far been contained to a small area in downtown Los Angeles. But the comments came a day after President Trump, in front of thousands of soldiers at Fort Bragg, vowed to liberate Los Angeles from what he described as an invasion.
Under the Trump administration, this anarchy will not stand. We will not allow federal agents to be attacked, and we will not allow an American city to be invaded and conquered by a foreign enemy. I'll say it loudly and clearly. They better do something before it's too late. Very simply, we will liberate Los Angeles and make it free, clean, and safe again.
A defense official tells NBC News that 700 Marines are mobilized and in the Los Angeles area, but are not on the streets yet. But they could be sent out as early as today. A curfew ordered by Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass will remain in effect for a second night tonight for portions of downtown. The LAPD says it made nearly 200 arrests yesterday, more than the total arrests made on the previous 3 days, in what the police chief is calling a concerning escalation in unlawful and dangerous behavior. In New York, meanwhile, the NYPD says it made dozens of arrests at an anti-ICE protest in Lower Manhattan. In Denver, police say they've made 17 arrests outside the state capitol, as our NBC affiliate reports that police deployed smoke and pepper balls to disperse the crowd. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott says that he's deploying the Texas National Guard to locations across the state ahead of protests planned in San Antonio. Meanwhile, NBC News has exclusive reporting that ICE is preparing to deploy its special response teams to 5 cities and regions run by Democrats: Seattle, Chicago, Philadelphia, New York, and the Washington, D.C. area.
Life can change in an instant. One moment you're fine, the next, well, everything is different. You're left with questions, with pain, with the feeling that you've been wrong. And the system, well, it feels like it is built against you. This is why you need somebody that's on your side, somebody that understands, somebody that will fight for you. At Morgan & Morgan, they're not just lawyers, they're advocates. They're here to give you a voice when yours feels lost. They've recovered billions for people just like you. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm, takes on all types of injury cases from car accidents to medical malpractice. They fight for your rights and the compensation that you deserve if you become their client so that you can focus on healing. They've achieved significant verdicts over the past few months for the victims involved in life-altering car crashes, like out in Florida, a $12 million verdict, which was over 34 times the highest insurance offer. And they work on a contingency fee basis, which means that you don't pay unless you win. It's really that simple, to be honest with you. So you can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at forthepeople.com/Black Conservative, which will be in the description below, right? The link will be in the description below, or you can scan the QR code on the screen with your phone's camera. Yeah, so again, it's just funny to me how we were all told that there is no violence, there is no riots, there is no chaos, everything is under control, right? But yet when Los Angeles implemented a curfew and they actually have allowed their police to do their jobs, right? Local law enforcement to do their jobs. Now, all of a sudden, they're mass arrests, right? Isn't it funny how that works? Okay. And not only are you seeing this in Los Angeles, you're seeing it across the country, okay? The lunatics are upset, right? They are freaking out and they're erupting across the country in anticipation for the ICE crackdown that is coming, right? They're not playing around. They're deploying their tactical units. They're doing what they have to do to conduct the mass deportations that was promised. This is what the American people voted for, and this is what we're getting, right? I love to see it, to be honest with you. But you know who hates to see it? Woke Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, who is having a full-blown meltdown over ICE conducting operations in Chicago, ratcheting it up. And this guy is basically saying that this is what the Confederacy, right? This is what the Confederacy would have been like had they won the Civil War. That's what he's comparing this to. Take a look.
Straight to the question, or we're going to go
Please turn my microphone on.
Yeah. Straight to the question, or we're going to go straight to Heather.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jeez. I thought the theme of today's press conference was freedom of speech. At any rate, you have called on the citizens of Chicago to rise up against ICE, to resist ICE, to fight back against ICE. Many Chicagoans, including black and brown, tell me that that sounds like a call to violence. In light of the violence that we're seeing in Los Angeles now, the looting, the damage to property, the attacks on law enforcement, would you consider withdrawing that violent call to violence?
I believe in nonviolence.
Right. Well, you also have said that the illegal immigrants that are being targeted by ICE are the working families of Chicago. The real Chicagoans are now facing tax increases because you've spent millions of their tax dollars on migrants. They're including a grocery tax.
Okay, we need the question.
Why would you think that real Chicagoans should trust you to spend their money after you've already wasted millions of it on illegal aliens?
We are investing in people.
Is that really honestly your only answer?
Yeah, we're going to go to Heather now. Thanks.
Wow.
Hi, Mayor.
Are you hearing from people in the community? I mean, we've heard some reports earlier this week that it's going back to when people were afraid to come outside or go to work or take their kids to school.
They're terrified. They are absolutely terrified. And that's, look, I remember a few stand-ups ago when I talked about what terrorism looks like. This is it. There should be no question to what our country would look like had the Confederacy won. We're seeing it on full display. And there's no art form in this. This is literally just using the power of the federal apparatus to insert its will on whomever. Right now in our country, there's no check and balance. It doesn't exist right now. Speaker Johnson, who is third in charge if something were to happen to the President of the United States of America, won't even raise his voice. As a believer in faith and justice, these individuals are cowards. They are hypocrites. They're dangerous. There's one branch of government right now in this country, one branch. He has taken over the courts. The Congress says nothing. And so people are terrified. But in the city of Chicago, we are going to remain vigilant and firm in protecting what is sensible about our existence. And that's ensuring that the Constitution is actually maintained. Here's the bottom line is this. You either support the Constitution or you do not. And right now, this president is literally just trampling all over the Constitution right now and doing it in plain sight. And so we're going to do everything in our power. Beatrice Ponce de Leon, Deputy Mayor, we're going to make sure that people know their rights. We'll relaunch again to ensure that people of Chicago know their rights.
Wow. Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. The number one way to recognize when a Democrat is losing an argument is when they start to talk about slavery, the Confederacy, Jim Crow, the white man, right? When they start talking about those things, you know that they're losing. They're losing. This man really said, this is what America would have been like had the Confederacy won. Really? Really, Brandon Johnson? Enforcing federal law makes this administration like the Confederacy? Really? Right? Again, this is just laughable, right? It's laughable stuff, especially considering the fact that it is Democrats. They're the ones that are the most concerned about the illegals being deported because they won't have slave labor, right? I mean, they've come out and just said that, yeah, without illegals, we're not going to have anybody to wipe our asses. I mean, you have MSNBC, they're doing a full-blown fear-mongering segment, basically upset with the fact that illegals on farms in California are no longer showing up to work. Again, to pick the cotton, to pick the strawberries, to do the slave labor.
For yourself, you know what's happening out here right now, Nicole? There are strawberries sitting behind me that are going unpicked. And it's reminiscent, as you look at some of the video of the raids here in Ventura County yesterday, of what happened in Alabama back in 2012 when a restricted immigration law was put into place back then, and it decimated the agricultural economy. Things are dying literally on the vine. Maybe JB can give you a look. Take a look. I can smell the strawberries from where I'm standing right now. There are a couple of workers out in this field, but really all you see is fruit that is going unpicked. And so what ultimately will end up happening, Nicole, is in a couple of weeks, if not a couple of months, if not weeks, you're going to start to feel the impact on the economy, not just of California, but across the country. The food supply of this state and of people across the nation will start to be impacted. And most importantly, Nicole, the workers who are at the heart, the beating heart of California's economy are not going to be showing up to work. And obviously the consequences of that are very clear to everybody.
And because he said that, I hope that President Trump goes a lot harder on Chicago than he did out in California and LA, right? I hope and pray that President Trump allows these ICE agents to raid all of these shelters, right? All of these places in Chicago holding these illegal immigrants and deports every single last one of them just so that we can see Brandon Johnson lose his mind. Right? I hope this dude gets so upset that he does something that he regrets and that he gets arrested, right? Because nothing would satisfy me more than to see this socialist get arrested, right? Nothing would satisfy me more than to see this man behind bars, okay? He needs to be held accountable, right? He needs to be held accountable. Because what he's allowing in Chicago, what these Democrats are allowing across the country, really, it's completely and totally unacceptable. These people think that they should just be allowed to obstruct the federal government. And then they want to get mad when the administration says, no, we're not going to allow you to do that, right? We're going to essentially fight fire with fire, right? If you're not going to allow local law enforcement to work with the federal government to deport the illegals, then, hey, we'll bring in more federal law enforcement, right? We'll bring in more resources. It is what it is. They were warned about this, and they decided not to listen. Okay? So Brandon Johnson's about to find out. He's about to find out. And no matter how much he cries about the Confederacy, slavery, Jim Crow, the white man, racism, that is not going to stop what is about to happen, right? It's not going to stop what is about to happen. And he's going to find out. I just got a gut feeling that what's going to happen out in Chicago is going to be fireworks. It's going to be very entertaining. But hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.